And one of the things, as you know, that hunters are really passionate about and really care about is conserving wildlife. Mm-hmm. The original sort of conservationists were hunters, right? And so as part of that, SCI established the SCI Foundation 20 years ago.
It's a group of folks that has so much passion and love for the tradition, getting out and hunting, so much so that they never want to see it go away. They never want to lose an opportunity. They know that it's on them to fight and protect it.
Very special to have people like that who share that same compassion and passion for this mission that we have. We're very fortunate to be able to serve a lot of different communities.
So in 2021 of September, SCI acquired Texas Trophy Hunters Association, and it has been so awesome, Dave. We Texans love Texas, but then to have a backing of SCI.
Some of them are perfectly okay with hunting as long as you're not hunting large carnivores, but they're no different than deer or elk or anything else. Populations must be managed.
It's too much.
Tejas.
It's still too.
Tejas Hunt Club Podcast is the podcast for you and you and you and you.
What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 40 of the Tejas Hunt Club Podcast. I'm your host, Brandon McDowell, and this week's episode is going to be real special. We're taking it on the road to the SCI Grand Opening down in San Antonio, Texas. Meagan and I got invited to come down to the Grand Opening and see the new facility, which is one of the coolest offices I've been in a while, just because, you know, it's designed by hunters, so it's got a lot of cool taxidermy in it. We'll drop some videos here in the podcast so y'all can check it out. And then also, like, it's just the layout of it is just awesome. It's their business operations and member services. And then they also partnered, of course, we go over this in the podcast, but back a couple years ago, they purchased Texas Trophy Hunters Association, which if you're in Texas, you know what that is. If you're not in Texas, it's a magazine. It's a publication that's been going on for a long time in Texas. And I can tell you, as a kid growing up, you were always excited to see what buck, I talk about it in the podcast, but what buck was going to be on the cover of that magazine. So it was pretty cool that SCI bought them a few years ago. It was just made sense to make their new home in Texas. Had a party out there with a bunch of tents set up in the parking lot of the building. They had a ribbon cutting with all the executives there. They had barbecue. They had live music. They had beer. But the event was sponsored by Lone Star, so that was pretty cool. Hadn't had one of those in a while. Brought back some memories from college. They set us up in one of the offices there, and we got to pull different people as they became available during the event and just kind of sit down and talk a little bit about what they do at SCI or the SCI Foundation for some of the guests, and Trinity Oaks Outdoors, shout out Ruben. And then we got to sit down and just talk about what SCI does, what the organization stands for, and then also some of the things the organization is sponsoring. So the way this podcast is going to be set up is I'm going to cut each section with each person that I had, so it'll just play back to back for y'all. So I know this is a little different, but I think it's going to be pretty cool. And for these live podcasts where we're talking to multiple people, I think it's definitely the way to do it, at least for now. But before we hop into that podcast, a few things we're going to touch on. TWA launched their Adult Learn to Hunt program applications on Monday. So if you either want to be a participant, if you want to learn how to hunt and go on one of the guided hunts that we posted about, Meagan and I have guided on. They have videos of them on our YouTube channel. You can go check them out. But if you want to be a mentee, you can submit your application. And also, if you're a little bit more experienced, which I know some of our listeners are, you can sign up to be a mentor as well and go on these hunts on some pretty cool properties throughout the state of Texas. So check out TWA's website for that application. I'll drop it down in the show notes for you to check out. If not, if you don't do it there, you can check out TWA's, and that's Texas Wildlife Association website, and I'll drop that in the show notes as well. As always, we want to give a big shout out to Real Avid for dropping us some pretty cool gear. We got some videos coming out. We're actually going to go to the range this weekend and get some more footage of the pistols that I put my red dot on. So the Springfield Hellcat Pro that I'm carrying as my concealed carry, and then also my Glock 45 that I've been doing some things to. So going to be doing that this weekend on the 4th of July. Happy 4th of July to all our listeners, by the way. And then we'll get some video of that this weekend, and then we'll be dropping those videos on YouTube, which leads me to check out the YouTube channel, guys. check out the cool videos we got on there. I mean, hunting, fishing, we got going to the range, shooting bows, a little rodeo action too, because we're into all of it. So check it out. Subscribe to the YouTube channel. Hit those like buttons on those videos. We really appreciate it. We thank y'all for listening to the podcast. The numbers have been going up. Been checking out some of our past episodes. I've been watching. I've been seeing. Apple Podcasts is reigning supreme right now, but Spotify is not that far behind. So thank you all for listening. If you do enjoy the podcast, which I think a lot of y'all do, drop us a comment. Give us a review. Greatly appreciate that. And also share with a friend, especially if you got some hunting buddies. Like if you got a good group of friends that y'all hunt or fish together, send them the podcast, man. Tell them check it out because you enjoy listening to it. This podcast is packed with a lot of awesome information, and I hope y'all enjoy listening to it. I hope y'all check out Safari Club International, SCI. Check out their new building. Check out their Instagram. They posted about the weekend and the event. We put a reel up too on Tejas Hunt Club Instagram and Facebook. Check those out. And I hope y'all enjoy the podcast. It was pretty cool for me to get to sit down with every guest that we had on here this week, because I've read about them, I've listened to them, I've followed them on social media, I've seen the things that they're doing in Washington D.C. for us here in America. I see the things that they're doing internationally. It's a great organization to check out. It's a great organization to be a part of. And like I said, I just want to say thank you for y'all for listening to the podcast, for giving me the chance to get to experience that. We're going to get into the podcast with Christina Pitman, President and CEO of Texas Trophy Hunters, Chris Tymeson, who is the local and state liaison for the Western United States, Ben Cassidy, who's the Director of Governmental Affairs for Safari Club International, also Chris Comer, who's the Director of Conservation for the Safari Club Foundation, Ramon, the Assistant Executive Director of Trinity Oaks Outdoors, and last and certainly not least, Miss Maria Davidson, the Large Carnivore Program Director for Safari Club International. Hope y'all enjoy this podcast, guys. I know I sure did. Even though I was there, I'm going to be re-listening to this one with all the information over and over again. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch y'all next week. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Tejas Hunt Club podcast. And today we're coming from San Antonio, Texas. Not our usual setup in our studio back at home. And today I'm joined by Christina Pitman of Texas Trophy Hunters Association. And we are at the grand opening of the new facility for SCI's business operations here in San Antonio. And I'm honored to have her on the podcast. We're going to talk about a little bit about SCI and kind of how Texas Trophy Hunters are working together, obviously for conservation and to promote our hunting lifestyle that we all love. So, Christina, if you want to give a little introduction to yourself and kind of your position and everything with Texas Trophy Hunters.
Sure. So, pleasure to be with you guys and on this podcast. My name's Christine. My name's Texas Trophy Hunters. I'm sorry. My name's Christina Pitman. I am the president and CEO of Texas Trophy Hunters Association. And I love what I do.
It's awesome.
That's it, right? But no, I actually started with Texas Trophy Hunters Association volunteering in I don't even know, probably about 13 years ago. And so I volunteered in the deer contest at the Hunters Extravaganzas. Yep. Was there for 3 years, and they kept offering me jobs. I kept telling them no, and don't think I'm crazy, right? Because I'm not. But at that time, I was helping out. I was working with the A&M San Antonio, helped them get that started from the ground up. So didn't want to leave because we had just built ground and all that stuff. And then finally, the third option, they said, hey, this is the last time we're offering you a job. I said, okay, what's the position for? And they said, it's for a trade show director. So I said, absolutely, I'm in. So started there in 2013. Mm-hmm. And since then, I just fell in love with Texas. Well, before, right? When I volunteered, I already fell in love with Texas Trophy Hunters. And before that, I knew Texas Trophy Hunters. I was a member, hunted since I was 5 with my dad. So, if you're from Texas, Texas Trophy Hunters Association, right? Yes. We love that logo. We love Texas Trophy Hunters. So, I ended up doing the trade shows and just fell in love with our family, right? Yeah. Our members, our exhibitors, everyone that comes through those doors. It's just awesome to be able to welcome them and be of the same mind frame, right? We all love to hunt, we love the outdoors, and we love what we do, and we want to protect that.
Exactly. And like you said, everybody, if you're in Texas and if you're outside of Texas, Texas Trophy Hunters Association is the association of Texas. Like if you love big whitetails like that, you look forward to getting the magazine and getting to see which deer was getting featured on the cover.
Yeah.
And that was one thing I've always like getting those magazines, the stickers. I mean, you can drive through, if you can drive through Texas and not see a Texas Trophy Hunter sticker, emblem, I mean, people weld these things. Oh, no problem. People weld these things to their bumpers, to anything that you can think of like that. You know that emblem when you see it. So it was real cool a couple years ago. I guess now that, when you heard about the merger between SCI and Texas Trophy Hunters, like, it's cool to see organizations kind of getting together to fight for what we all love, like we mentioned. So kind of tell me how, if you can, a little bit about that, and then what's come since the move. Obviously, them moving business operations here to San Antonio probably has a little bit something to do with that, but kind of like tell us that story.
Sure. So in 2021 of September, SCI acquired Texas Trophy Hunters Association, and it has been so awesome. And when I say so awesome, think of, we're Texas, right? That's a state, and we're a big state, and we Texans love Texas.
Yeah.
But then to have a backing of SCI, right? They're global, they're international. That's even more powerful. So some of the things that we're doing, for instance, is our outdoors extravaganza. We are excited. This is the first of any kind where two organizations are going to come together and put on this outdoors extravaganza in January in Dallas, the 10th through the 12th at the Kay Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'm excited for it also because, that right in the middle of that show season, we have a bunch of different organizations, obviously, that have shows then, but to have that big show in Texas again, it's going to be awesome.
For sure. We're proud of it. When people come through the door, they'll be able to be a TTHA member and an SCI member. They'll walk through that door and they'll be able to see all things hunting. They'll be able to see guides, outfitters, you name it. If it revolves around hunting and outdoors, it's going to be there at that show.
That's awesome. And then with that show, is that going to kind of kick off, or are y'all going to change dates? Like you'll have the Houston show and the San Antonio show. So how is that going to change?
So shame on me. I should have talked about our Hunters Extravaganzas because that's coming up this August. So we have 3. Our Hunters Extravaganzas is what Texas Trophy Hunters is known for, right? And our membership and our decal, we're known for a lot of things. But specifically our Hunters Extravaganzas, we start off August 2nd through the 4th in Houston at the NRG Center. Then we go to Fort Worth, August 9th through the 11th. And that's going to be at the Fort Worth Convention Center. And then we ended in San Antonio at the Freeman Coliseum Expo Hall, August 16th through the 18th. And we're going to have a big member party in San Antonio. Everyone's invited that is a TTHA member. And if you're not, you can still get in there. But it's going to be a phenomenal event. We're going to have a member party sponsored by we're going to have Lone Star Beer out there. And then also we partnered with Los Cazadores. So Los Cazadores and Texas Trophy Hunters Association, again, kind of talking about partnering up, making sure we're working together. That's what we're going to be ending it off at in San Antonio. Yeah,
and that's awesome because once again, like you said, it's getting these organizations together and getting the membership together because we're all striving for the same goal, and we have enough people that are against us, as we all know. So this kind of banding together, you see it in other organizations in other states, and I'm really happy to see like Texas kind of be on a little bit on the forefront of that, and representing obviously for our state, but also for the nation and different things as well. So I'm really excited for all the things that are coming with Texas Trophy Hunters and SCI. What can you tell us that's maybe in the works or in not maybe for sure, but just a little teaser of what we have coming?
So I will tell you, for 2025, it is Texas Trophy Hunters Association's 50th anniversary, right? So we're going to kick it off with that January Outdoors Extravaganza show. Then we're going to roll into, I can't tell you yet because we haven't announced it yet, but we'll be making an announcement probably in the next 2 weeks or in August.
Awesome.
We're still trying to get that stuff squared away, but expect something really neat for our members. And then also one of the greatest things that I'm excited about, going back to our 2024 shows in August, is we actually signed with Cryptic Camo.
Okay.
So everybody that walks through the door and becomes a TTHA member, which is coming with a ticket also, they will get a $50 gift card to Cryptic Camo. In addition to that, they'll get a $25 gift card to Do All Outdoors products. So that's a $75 value. You
Yep.
can't get anything better than
No,
that.
you really can't.
And then I'm going to make it even better, right? You could get free entry to the deer contest. You get into the shows for free on Fridays if you're a TTHA member. And then we just relaunched our member discount program. So when you're a member of TTHA, you'll be able to take opportunities with our partners. You'll get discounts to CVA, Bergara, G2 Ranch. I mean, we're talking hunts. There's so many different things that you guys can capitalize on and use that as an opportunity. It definitely is worth it to be a TTHA member.
Yes, exactly. And that's one thing you can say about TTHA and SCI and being in these organizations is like when you're a member, yes, you're paying a membership fee. Yes, you're volunteering time. Yes, you're doing things. But there is a benefit from not only providing help for conservation and hunting and fishing and being in the outdoors, but also with these brands that help sponsor these events. So it's definitely a win-win when you become members of these organizations. And not, like you said, the events that go on, the networking, the people that you're going to meet, and the stories and stuff that you're going to go on to create are going to be awesome through these organizations. So I want to say thank you, Christine. You know, if anything, you want to talk about anything else, we can go over it. But I once again, I want to say thank you for coming on the podcast today.
I think that's it. And thank you.
That's awesome. Okay, guys. So like I said, where can everybody become members, reach out, get more information, drop that,
Sure.
say that so the members can hear it.
Not a problem. They can go to TTHA.com. That's T as in Texas, T as in Trophy, H as in Hunters, A as in Association.com. And if not, they can go to any of our trade shows, any of our Hunters Extravaganzas this August. They can join there and get their awesome premiums and come talk to us. We'd love to have everyone there.
That's awesome, guys. Thank you, Christine, for being on the podcast, guys. And go check out Texas Trophy Hunters Association and also SCI. Become members. Come out to the events that they're having this summer. And then if you're able to, come out to Kay Bailey Hutchinson Center in January for the big event. So it's going to be awesome. So thank you, Christine, for coming on the podcast. And all right, guys, so another section of this podcast, I'm sitting here with Chris Tymeson, who is the Western States liaison for SCI. So he was gracious enough to sit down with us and do a little podcast, kind of tell us about, his story, what his job entails, and kind of what he does for SCI, and then how else other people can get involved. So Chris, like I said, appreciate you coming on the podcast today, giving us a little bit of your time, with all the festivities and celebration and everything going on. So kind of, give us a little rundown about yourself, and then kind of what your title entails with SCI.
Sure. Thanks for having me. I live in Kansas City on the Kansas side, work for SCI as Western State and Local Liaison. Before that, I was the chief attorney for the Kansas Department of Wildlife and Parks for a couple decades. And before that, I was in the military. So had a good little run of government service, and now I'm in the nonprofit world.
Well, we'll start with thank you for your service, sir. Yeah. We really appreciate that. On the podcast, we do a lot of stuff with veterans and, getting them in the outdoors. So like I said, thank you for your service.
Appreciate that very much.
No problem. So, like I said, what does a liaison do on a day-to-day, and like why is that job obviously so important?
Right. So basically, I do government affairs work is what it's called. Right. So everything west of the Mississippi, those are my states. Basically, every day I go to my computer, I read what the bots have pulled up to see what is a new regulation or a new statute. I have my email all set up so everything comes to me, whether it's from the state agency or from this program that we use to track legislation and regulations. I scan all that, make sure that there's nothing detrimental for hunters. SCI's mission is to protect the right to hunt worldwide. And so that's what I do. I protect the right to hunt in the U.S. and worldwide too, but primarily focused on that Western United States stuff. So then I'll draft comment letters if I see something that's detrimental to hunters, draft comment letters, engage grassroots if it's a really big issue. The comment letters come under my boss's signature, Laird, the CEO. And then if we engage grassroots, we send out alerts and we can tailor those state level or national.
Nice. So with your job, like you said, you're the Western States liaison and government affairs. That's a huge undertaking because obviously there's a lot of states. And even when you go west, as I've learned, even applying for tags and stuff, every state's different and every state kind of handles things, like you said, different. So it's a huge undertaking to be able to watch and pay attention to all those things. And obviously you have some states that are more active, with regulations and different things than others, but that's still a huge job to go with and be able to watch and track those things. So obviously you probably have counterparts for other regions of the nation as well, correct?
I do. I have my counterpart B who handles the East, and the job entails going out and meeting with folks too. I've been on the road. This will be 10 of 11 days.
Yeah.
So it's been a busy last part of June. I go out and I meet with state officials, and during legislative sessions, which are now tapered off, those usually run January till June-ish.
Mm-hmm.
I've got a couple states that run longer, but go out and meet with government officials and legislators and talk to them about our issues and why it's important that, hunters are represented.
Yeah. Like I said, that's an important job, and glad to hear about it, because, these are the kind of jobs and positions that people don't really realize that are out there. Like you see, your biologists and stuff that work for the government, and then people see these organizations and, what are my membership fees and stuff going to, where you're going to help with these people that are on the ground doing these things like you are, and like finding out and seeking out these regulations and getting alerts on them and being able to act on those things as well. So your job and like you said, your counterparts are truly kind of on the front lines of what's going on in the nation. Obviously in your states and even on the state level as well, because we have different regulations that are popping up there, and then on the federal level. So that is neat to learn and figure out, with the position that you're holding right now.
Right. Last week I was here in Texas for 3 days. Then I went back home, overnighted, switched laundry, and went to Illinois, met with a bunch of government officials who met in this association meeting, and then now I'm back here, right? So,
yeah.
Constantly on the go like that, constantly out protecting hunters' rights.
Yeah, that's awesome. And, with that, do you ever kind of make time for yourself to hunt and fish and enjoy the outdoors? Like what's hunting for you like at this point?
Well, I shot a turkey on Memorial Day weekend, so that was good up in northwest Kansas. And then my wife and I went on an African hunt in April. So
awesome.
She had a hunt that she had bought probably 2 years ago, and we finally got around to going. And it's my second trip to Africa. And so she hunted first, shot a blessed buck, an impala, a golden wildebeest, and a blue wildebeest. And then I shot an impala, and I shot a Cape buffalo.
That's awesome. Cape buffalo is really, really high on my list. I guess we have another thing in common with that you get to hunt with your wife. So that's right. Awesome that y'all can share that as a couple. Like Megan and I get to do that same thing. It's kind of like we have the podcast together and everything like that. So, guys ask me, sometimes that if their wife doesn't hunt or doesn't hunt as much as they do, it's like, well, what would you rather choose? Your wife that always wants to go because obviously your hunting fees and everything kind of doubles, or the wife that, likes to stay at home. And I think I like having to be able to go with her too, because we get to hunt a little bit longer. And also they understand when we call them and tell them like, hey, this bird's not working like he should, and I need to get after him, and I might need an extra 2 days. They kind of understand what that feeling's like when they're out there chasing animals too. So that's awesome, man.
Yeah, and we're going to go to Canada this fall again to waterfowl.
Yeah,
I'm definitely a bird hunter first. Probably we've got a couple labs, and we live in Kansas.
Yeah,
to go west, and so definitely love to hunt birds. Also a big game hunter, obviously.
Yeah. So, did you grow up in Kansas, or how did you get started hunting?
So I grew up in Iowa, and in northwest Iowa, small farming community, and had a best friend who just hunted. My dad probably only hunted with me 4 or 5 times in my life, and he was just a bird hunter.
Yeah.
I took him on an antelope hunt once in Wyoming, which was a super long story. One of my brothers and I took him on that, and he shot an antelope, had a great time. Ultimately, getting him through that process was different, but so I grew up with this guy, John, and we just kind of started hunting together in like 5th grade. And I would go to the NRA used to have a range night at the National Guard Armory. That's how small the town is.
Yep.
The NRA gets to use the armory, and so I started shooting 22s, and then from there 410, and worked my way up.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And kind of like it's kind of a story most people have. You have someone in your life that kind of takes you on and like helps you
gives you the opportunity to go out and enjoy the outdoors. And like you said, your dad grew up bird hunting, so that's what's something. And I didn't grow up bird hunting, but I grew up shooting trap and skeet. So that was like my first intro with shotguns. So that bird hunting thing, and of course being here in Texas, we like to dove hunt and everything. So yeah, I can definitely understand that, man. It's awesome. So Chris, like what, as you said, you're getting alerts and stuff of what's going on. What's kind of the things that you see is maybe like the top three or first biggest issues that you think that members themselves can make an effort to kind of combat?
Right now, I think the super priority is Colorado, and there's a proposed ban on mountain lion hunting and trapping.
Yep.
And it's a ballot measure. They have to turn in signatures by this coming Wednesday, July 3rd. So we'll know probably 3 or 4 weeks after that. The Secretary of State has to certify those signatures. If it gets on the ballot, people need to donate. And it's Colorado's Wildlife Deserves Better is what the issues committee is that would take and be the messaging arm to combat the ballot measure.
Yeah.
I think that is probably in the West the number one priority. It also flows into what I see as people think is the antis think is low-hanging fruit, which is predator hunting or carnivore hunting, whether it's bears, mountain lions, or bobcats. I'm commenting on all those every day, pretty much. That's like maybe my number one area that I comment. I just did one last week in Nebraska. I talked with Nebraska Game and Parks about this regulation. They were expanding their mountain lion season.
Oh, yep.
And they asked for comments, and they got 43 comments that were SCI members. 26 of them were from in-state. And so that helps reassure the commission as they moved forward that it was a scientific-based conservation measure and that, SCI members were supportive of it. It wasn't just the antis commenting.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And like, that's kind of one of the things that, we kind of talk about on the podcast is the fact that the anti-hunters are using this as not using science-based information to make these decisions on what they're doing, and how important it is to have, the backing of the wildlife biologists of the state, and then also all of the information collected. And I want to say good information, because if you've been through any amount of, studies or anything, it can be manipulated and make the figures come out to what you want it to be. But good science-based, good studies being done and getting that information, and then therefore making the regulations or not making regulations because of it. And, I'm glad that we have people like you that are watching out for those things, but we also, as the members of these organizations and hunters alike, have to be able to have ways to, like you said, send in signatures or send in comments on these things. Because, it's real easy to stay in the woods and hunt, and that's the easier and more fun thing to do. But when we come home, we kind of have a responsibility to make sure that we have the opportunity to go back out in the woods.
My busy states, we talked about a little bit about this, and this leads into maybe my second biggest issue. I've got Alaska, I've got Washington, Oregon, California, New Mexico, Colorado, right? In particular, in Washington and Colorado, a little bit in Oregon, the people who don't like what we do have gotten the ear of the governor, and they're placing people on the wildlife commissions that don't value hunting.
Yep.
And so I think that's probably the second biggest issue in the West, for sure, is getting anti-hunters on the commissions.
Yeah.
And they're doing it because people aren't speaking up, right? I watched this for 20 years when I worked at the state. Hunters are generally apathetic. And I don't mean that in a bad way. I mean it like the game agencies have done a great job. In Kansas, you can shoot 6 deer. You can shoot 1 buck and 5 does. If you're a deer hunter, why are you worried about somebody coming to the commission and saying, things that are not in your interest? Because right now, it's the high life, right? Or if you're a duck hunter and things are in the liberal package and you're shooting 109 days a year, or 107 days a year, right? Again, you're happy. So people don't come out and comment, or they aren't reacting to those alerts that come out because they're like, everything seems to be good.
Yeah.
Right?
It's fine in my neighborhood.
But it's not. It's not in your neighborhood. I'm telling you, it's coming. I dealt with it. We're dealing with it in Texas on mountain lions too, right? They see that as low-hanging fruit.
Yeah. And I mean, we are in the same community. If you hunt deer, if you hunt ducks, if you run coon dogs, if you run hog dogs, if you run any of that, you're all in the same community. And when, as hunters, we sit back, well, they're not talking about me, or they're not talking about what I like to hunt. It's not a good way to look at it, because we're all in this together. And like you said, it's low hanging fruit to them, but they're not going to be satisfied with that. And they're just going to start slowly keep chipping away. And when it hits you or gets to your animal and you're looking back for help, well, were you
going to be there?
Were you there to help the rest of
Right.
the other hunters as well? So I love that you brought that up, and I hope that, the listeners hear that as well and pass along that message, because it's something I try to do, because I mean, I like hunting everything. I grew up hunting hogs and stuff like that, and I've gotten the opportunity to hunt other animals, but like you said, it starts from everything across the board, that we have to be there for every single hunter, and even fishermen too, when it comes to that stuff. Because it's sorry to tell you, but if you look where the biggest bucks are and where the biggest animal are, is next to water. So if we're not protecting all of these things together, it's going to be real hard to be able to face people when they're coming after that specific animal that you love.
So I'm a big angler too. Last year I fished about 261 days.
That's awesome.
I mean, I go almost every night, because I can't hunt every night, but
yeah, you can go
I can
fishing.
drop a kid off at soccer and go fish for an hour and come back and pick up. That's what I do. But to your point, anglers are under assault too, because people want to make all your tackle non-toxic,
Mhm.
right? No lead free, and there just aren't those products on the market. I'm seeing it on the federal level as the hunt fish rule is rolled out every year. More and more places, they're trying to make lead free
Mhm.
entirely for hunting as well as for fishing.
Yeah.
So if you're an angler, you better get on the ball.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly. And like I said, they're trying to remove things from us that we don't even have the technology to replace yet. So
Right.
that's another way they're trying to combat hunting. And it's crazy that they spend all this time and money and lawyers and things to come up with these different things. Like I'll give the antis that they're very creative in their tactics that they use, and it's time for hunters and anglers to be creative in our tactics also. But also, we want to be able to tell the truth, and we want to be able to stand on the things that we're saying and know that they have a foundation, obviously, in research and the North American model, how it should be ran. So we are on the side of right, I believe, but we have to do a way better job of spreading that message, not only to hunters, but that middle ground that may not participate in hunting, may not participate in fishing, but they need to have the information readily available. So when they do go to the ballot, when the antis are proposing these measures, that they have sound information that they're going to hopefully make the right decision on. So
public acceptance of hunting, there's a study that just came out, right? And it says 77%. Usually it tracks in that 80% tile range, right? It's gone down. It goes back up. When you talk about trophy hunting, that number goes way down for public acceptance based on a misperception. But that's how the antis are framing it, in particular on this issue in Colorado,
yep.
right? And so they're framing it as trophy hunting. And how do they define trophy hunting in their ballot measure? It's all hunting.
Yeah.
Right? And so if they get it for mountain lions,
it sets a
they're
precedent.
coming right for you next.
Yep.
For if you're an elk hunter or a deer hunter, or if you're a pheasant hunter, there are provisions how they talk about how horrible it is that dogs have GPS tracking collars and chase these animals. Don't mind the selectivity that it allows, so you're not taking females, right? There's lots of advantages to things like that. But their whole point is to characterize everything as trophy hunting, not hunting.
Yeah.
To lower that public acceptance rate.
Yeah, and that's one of the main things that we're fighting today. I mean, and like you said, it's commenting on these things for members. It's being involved. It's joining chapters. It's spreading the message of hunting in the outdoors in your community, because that's kind of where it starts. If anything else, start there, and then join organizations, volunteer, do the things that so we can fight these people in court, because that's where it's coming down at. That's where the real battles between the antis and us are happening. It's not happening out, in the deer blind. It's not happening. I mean, it's happening some on social media and the internet, but the real battles are happening in the courtrooms. And unfortunately, it takes a lot of money to do that, and smart people being in those positions to be able to relay the information back and forth so those decisions can be made. Yeah.
SCI has 8 lawyers on staff, right? But 3 of them do purely litigation.
Mm-hmm.
And I work closely with them every day. And what I do is I help identify those issues, help lay the foundation for those issues, get chapters engaged, and then we litigate. That's the reason why I joined Safari Club. So I originally joined Safari Club in probably 2004, just because I was interested in going to Africa. And so I wanted to be around people who knew about that. And so what better way than to go and talk to somebody in the chapter and they have, like in the Kansas City chapter, once a month you meet and you have dinner and there's a presentation. You're just around like-minded people who can give you some of that knowledge.
Yeah.
But then in my professional job, as I was also the legal committee vice chair for 15 years for the Association of Fish and Wildlife Agencies. All 50 states, Canadian provinces belong to this association. And so Safari Club would send their attorneys. And so I saw what Safari Club was doing on the litigation front. Nobody else is doing it like we are.
Yeah.
And so I became a life member as a result of that in 2007. And then when Safari Club came calling later in life, it was my opportunity to come to work for a great organization I believe in.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I mean, it's being able to work in an industry where you're passionate about what you're doing. Like it's work, yes, but you feel like you're accomplishing something, and you are every day, and you're helping people that are like you, people that believe in what you're doing. So Chris, like I said, thank you again for, coming on the podcast and talking about this. Cause like I said, I appreciate the time that we're spending here getting to celebrate this event and everything, but also learning the new information and being able to spread this information. And I'll definitely be, where can people, are you present on social media? Do you do a lot of work through that? Or are you mostly just like kind of more behind the scenes, I guess you'd say?
So I locked down my personal social media because the people would bombard me.
Mm-hmm.
And even that started when I was working for the state. So people who didn't like what I do, defending the right to hunt. So go to Safari Club social. We're on all the socials. We have a great social guy, Chris Lasavita Jr., right? And he's awesome. That's where I would go if you want to follow that
everything like that. Yeah, that's awesome. And of course, y'all have the newsletter that comes out with some of the issues, all the issues that are coming out every day. So people can join that newsletter from the website as well, and you can get that information. Some of the things that we talk about here on the podcast, I'm getting straight from SCI, and some of the statistics and then the legislation that I kind of talk about as well. So like I said, Chris, thanks for coming on the podcast. We'll have to do another one, maybe in the near future to kind of talk about some other things that are going on, since you're going to be covering, the west, like I said, the western part of the state. Because there's stuff going on in the east, I'm sure, but the West seems to be kind of holding the candle pretty high for things like moving around legislation wise. So
it's certainly a hotbed, for sure. And I love being on this just because my affinity for Texas.
That's awesome.
My father-in-law from Galveston. My wife went to San Angelo High School. She was an Air Force brat, so we've got a lot of good connections. There's some awesome hunting here.
Yeah, there is, and I appreciate that, and you bringing that up, because I've grown up here my whole life. If anybody's ever, like I said, listen to the podcast or know me personally, I love Texas, everything about it, and I love being from here, and love being able to spread the message about the hunting and the opportunities that are here, and then also try to help fight for the things that we have here in Texas, because it's stuff that I really, really care about, and I have a small platform, but I'm ready to put the information behind it to, like I said, spread that message. So Chris, thanks for coming on the podcast, and we'll enjoy the rest of the festivities today.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem.
Appreciate it.
All right, guys, welcome to this section of the podcast. We're going to be kind of putting things together here, but we've got to sit down with all the great people here that we're meeting at the event. The grand opening of SCI's operations here in San Antonio, Texas. And right now I'm sitting down with Ben Cassidy, the Director of Government Affairs for SCI as a whole. So like I said, it's an honor to have you sitting down on the podcast to talk to us today. I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts and a little bit about SCI, maybe dive into like the kind of the history just for the listeners that don't know, and then the move here to San Antonio, and then what's on the horizon for SCI here in Texas.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Brandon, so much for having me on. it just couldn't be in a better time and place. I oversee our government affairs in Washington, D.C., where we've got the Hunters Embassy. And my favorite thing is when my friends, hunters in the world, invite me to come to their backyards and get me out of D.C., right? I'm there so you don't have to be, right? But it doesn't mean I don't mind leaving to hang out with you. But today, it's a momentous occasion, right? I mean, we just saw the whole opening, the ceremony, the speeches from our CEO, our president-elect, really celebrate and recognize, why we're making this big step and just taking the organization to like another level. And I really mean it, coming into Texas, into a state that, has that rich heritage, the one that we really fight for and defend, being in a place where, it's like-minded, they want to have you here. Like there's no other replacement for it. Selfishly, I love being here. I've got my family in San Antonio. Half of them live in DC, half live in San Antonio. So I've got my work to do bringing some more members in too at the same time. But just seeing the celebration going on outside and the collection of folks, obviously tons of Texans here, but just people just dropping in from all over saying, what are you guys doing in Texas? Where's this thing headed?
Exactly.
Can I get on the bus?
Yes. Can we all get on the bus? We've seen some friends of ours here, Brandon Bredermeyer, who's been a guest of the podcast and a member of SCI and everything out there in West Texas. He's here. And
good man.
We've seen Herman Brune, great people just gathering here today. So, like I said, I wanted to sit down with Ben here and kind of get the story on what made you choose Texas, why this base of operations, and then, obviously we know Texas is the best, but still, what was it takes thought and planning to go into these kind of moves that you're making, obviously looking forward into the future and for right now. So kind of give us that layout.
Yeah. I mean, I'd go back again to just being in a place with like-minded folks, that like a great, strong, rich hunting culture. I feel like in San Antonio, we're at the gateways to some of the best whitetail hunting in the planet, right? I'm not just saying that for your audience. It's a fact. They're talking about it in Europe, they're talking about it in Africa. That's just a fact. I think centralizing, our business operations makes a lot more sense too, just with time zones and that piece and being able to cover everything that we do. With SCI, we're not a species-specific organization. It's really whatever you hunt, wherever you hunt, however you hunt. So we got a lot of ground to cover. So I think having that business operations in that sort of central place that's easy to get to, in and out of, be able to deploy that message and have folks. It's just also the Texas spirit, right? I want to work with more Texans.
Yeah.
We got this office space here, for more folks to come on board and, really just ramp a lot of stuff up. So through and through, I wish I could take credit for the whole move.
Yeah.
Say it was my idea. I fully support it. I've never seen anything go through so easily. Our entire board, it's a big group, right? We got over 150 chapters. We got a really big board. All this had to be approved that way. I've never seen anything just go with so much common sense. Yes. Why are we in Texas already?
Dude,
when's the building opening?
That's good to hear. I mean, like you said, there's SCI is a big organization, and obviously it takes all those people within the organization to make it run like it does. So getting everybody on board for specific things like this is I'm sure a task. But
it can be.
It can be. But you said when you give people the options that you've given them moving here, like you said, centralizing that time zone, because I can imagine, some people working on the East Coast and then working on the West Coast and trying to align meetings and align calls and stuff, that can become hectic. I mean, I see it in my job as well with different manufacturers I deal with, at Silencer Shop and stuff. So it's easy to see how the move here was awesome, was a good idea, first of all, but then also tying into y'all acquiring Texas Trophy Hunters a couple years ago and them having their base also here in San Antonio, and kind of speak to me, if you can, about how y'all are tying that rich, because I spoke to Christina earlier today, and I kind of geeked out a little bit on being able to talk about Texas Trophy Hunters, because as a kid that grew up in South Texas, it's you're waiting for that magazine to come out. You're waiting to see what buck is going to be on the cover. You're waiting to go to Extravaganza and see all the neat, cool things that are coming out. So kind of speak to how SCI obviously is strengthening Texas Trophy Hunters and kind of that balance between the two.
Yeah, absolutely. And I got introduced to TTHA for the first time through my sister in San Antonio that had the license plate.
Yep.
I don't even know that she knew knew the organization. She's like, that's the coolest looking plate I've ever seen. And obviously also in news racks, when that was a thing. I go through the airport in Austin or San Antonio, and there would be pick it up, get me through my whole flight. But yeah, it's incredible work that, Christina and her team have done. in building it. They have a long, rich history. They're about to celebrate their 50 years there. I think that, it speaks to the traditions and the values and the virtues of like Texas hunting. So it just made sense, having it become a part of the work that we're doing. Like I said, we're all species everywhere all the time. I think that what we do at TTHA really complements that. I think, it really just showed like proof of concept too, and like us being in Texas and just that like-mindedness and just having more folks that are all bought in to, that mission to be first for hunters, and really, recognize the fact that hunting matters and spreading that message out there.
Yeah, and I enjoy that. Like I said, I'm proud to have y'all here in Texas and being that star, that proving ground, I guess, for the things to go, and then obviously set precedents in other states as well. I talked to Chris Tymeson earlier, and we kind of talked about and hit on, even if you're just, a coon hunter or a duck hunter, like we're all in this together.
Sure.
And the same to go as states as well. Like, yes, we're Texas and, we do things a little bit different than other states, but we want to be able to work with each state, work with each other to obviously reach the common goal of keeping hunting and being in the outdoors in the forefront of everybody's mind. And, it's cool to see, like you said, like Texas being in front or attempting to be in front of spreading that message. And that's kind of what we do here on the podcast is just wanting to get more people involved, obviously, in hunting and fishing. And if you love it, give you kind of a voice, give you options to spread that message and give back to it as well. So what do you see as members that we can really do? I asked Chris kind of the same thing, is aside obviously joining SCI.
Right, you took that out of my mouth right there, yeah.
Joining Texas Trophy Hunters, but like once you become a member, it's not just, sending in that check once a year and just being a member, but how can you actively get involved with SCI?
Sure. And how do I put this? So somebody once called like Safari Club International or like TTHA, a member organization. But I don't think that we're a member organization. I think that we are our members, right? Because I think that what sets our membership apart is they're active, they're engaged, they're out there. It's a group of folks that has so much passion and love for the tradition, getting out and hunting, so much so that they never want to see it go away. They never want to lose an opportunity. They know that it's on them to fight and protect it. It's not going to be somebody else that's going to help out and do that. It's going to be on us, right? And I think that it's incredible here in Texas where it's a great example of how to do it right. And I'm not saying that it's easy, like making any sort of wildlife or land decision. There's always going to be fights, even in our own community.
Yep.
But really, there is just underpinning and the foundation of like how it's done in Texas. I'd love to see that copied in Colorado. I'd love to see that copied in California. I'd love to see that copied in New York. I'd love to see it copied all over the place, right? So I think it's more of a matter of recognizing, as a Texas hunter, that you're a part of something special, and you've got the responsibility to protect it. And no one's going to be able to do anything like that alone on a large scale. So it's going through organizations like, Safari Club International to strengthen and raise that voice and give you more opportunity. I don't know if Chris touched on it, but, we're very focused on the member and being able to, share the information, give that kind of education on like what's going on. We don't expect everyone else to like watch it from, 24 hours a day, like where the threats are, where the opportunities are, but we're doing that. So following us to see what's going on, and we don't just want to tell you what's happening. We want to tell you what you can do about it.
Exactly.
And from there, going on, taking on that challenge and doing something about it.
That's awesome, because it's one of the things too, because it's hard. I on last week's episode, I kind of talked about it. It's hard to be, go to work, take care of your family, do all the things and try to have fun and go hunting.
Sure.
And then also try to fit in that advocacy part with it.
I get it.
And pay attention to these things. So like I was explaining on that episode, it's like one of the things I've taken on is the fact that I can do this. I can produce this entertainment for some part, but content and spread this information, because I'm on the forefront. I get the emails and all the things, so I can easily spread that information. But I can see how a person that gets home and has 40 something emails to read can kind of skip over that stuff. But it's like kind of just partnering with those people and being able, and it's you don't want to say the same thing over and over again, but you do want to pretty much say the same thing over again about being active and paying attention to those things. Because if we don't, it's real easy to get lost in the transition of it. So
yeah, somebody once told me that leadership is just repeating yourself often with a smile on your face.
that could be it for sure. I can see how that would work, but it's like you said, it's spreading that message and, and using y'all as a resource and learning about what you can do. It's supporting the local chapters which leads to the national level, which leads to the international level. And I feel like I've spoken to some people that I know that are hunters, and I bring up SCI, and one of the things I like telling about SCI to people is it's not just about international stuff.
Certainly not.
And it starts here in America and it spreads to other places. I mean, we're America. We're known for helping other places and being, the at the forefront of doing those things. And SCI just does that as well. But SCI does work for the guy that just hunts on his property at home. And then it also works for the guy that wants to travel and go to Africa and go to New Zealand and everybody in between.
Yeah, I mean, go out right now and just ask anyone to pop their phone out and show like the last great hunt that they had. You're going to see lots of deer, duck, and turkeys on there, right? I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, the fact of the matter is, as we see it, I mean, it's a unique vantage point that we have at SCI because we are monitoring and looking at the whole landscape, right? At fights that are going on across the world, and there's just a real interconnectedness. Whether it's folks that want to end it or making bad decisions or just ignorance, certainly like around the issues. You see it interconnected. A bad idea in one place can travel really quickly and become a bad idea, in your backyard. Yep. So if there's something happening in Colorado that's going against, what the biologists say should happen, and it's got to be stopped there. It's got to take full force of action from all hunters to give that message to be able to shut it down or make sure it never even comes to your backyard. Right. Exactly. Just keep it as far away as possible. Put it out.
Yeah, and I mean it's. Taking the research and the studies that we have available, and then also using the funds that, from SCI and other organizations that fund new research and more stuff, because it's hard to, as biologists in these state agencies, it's not no fault to their own, but it's just from funding and different things that a lot of the things can be retroactive as far as proactive in regulations and different things. So it's having the ability to change these things and have the people that are paying attention to it to be able to change these regulations and different things. And even so, like something bad comes up or something good comes up, it's like revisiting at, maybe 3-4 years and double checking that kind of stuff.
Sure.
So it's a lot of work from SCI, a lot of work from its partners, and a lot of work from the members too, but it's necessary to make this whole thing work.
And don't get me wrong. I mean, it's a job. A lot of work goes into it. But at the end of the day, what we're defending is our favorite pastime, our favorite thing to do, our favorite way to spend time, our most cherished memories. Like, it's fun too, right?
Yep.
So on the involvement side too, and you touched on it, it's like you want to get more involved. Yeah, you can get involved by knowing the issues, doing something about it, make it as easy as possible for you. But it's also get involved with the local chapter. Go hang out with people with like-minded, like-minded approach.
Yep.
Folks that, want to tell their last hunting story, want to make plans, for what they're going to do next. It's incredible. There's plenty of opportunities in Texas. I mean, we got great chapters throughout the state.
Yep.
So yeah, I would encourage folks to come to our website, safariclub.org, see where your closest chapter is, get involved at that level. Then get involved on the advocacy side of things too.
Yeah. And then last thing I want to go over with you, because I know we want to get back to the festivities and everything, but what is the message that hunters should be giving, not obviously to the antis, but to those people in the middle, the people that don't necessarily hunt, don't necessarily fish or spend time outdoors, but they're not opposed to it either. It's just not something that they do. Like, because we're always going to have people that don't like what we do.
Yep.
No matter what.
Sure.
They're not going to see the science. They're not going to see the benefit. It's just not something in their realm. But for the people, the majority of people that are in between, how do we reach those people, and how do we not necessarily, because a lot of people focus on recruitment and getting more hunters, which is awesome. We want that. But how do we speak to the people that maybe just need to make a decision when it comes to voting on stuff?
Sure, absolutely. It's a great question. How and I deal with that a lot. Like, I live in DC, so I'm surrounded by a lot of folks that really don't have that sort of connection. A lot of us are fortunate to have that opportunity to get out into the outdoors and really connect there. And I really like always start it when I talk to folks that, just, coming from a kind of position of ignorance on it, right? Is just really with the opening of, I don't know if you realize this, but hunting matters, right? It matters to me. It matters to wildlife. It matters to society. And for me, I ended up going into just, telling stories on what connects me. Because whenever I end up telling a story about going out and hunting, a clear, obvious passion comes through. It's undeniable. If I am dealing with an anti, it's, I hunt because I like it. Period. Yeah. Nobody can ever argue that, right? But at the end of the day, I think it goes down to having the person start at the baseline of the fact that hunting matters. And I think from there, it just grows into telling the stories that we have from the outdoors and where that connection is. I think a lot of people see sort of a seeming paradox when you talk about killing something to benefit it. Mm-hmm. Assume that people don't really understand that twist to it. So kind of opening it into, the necessity to manage wildlife, in order to keep a balance going. It's not going to manage itself. And there's examples of that throughout, just a whitetail on a highway, right? Mm-hmm. We've all seen the roadkill. Just showing, not trying to say that we're all heroes, but as hunters, we kind of are in a way, because I know that we're enjoying it, but at the same time, we're doing a necessary job that benefits all of society. I think a lot of folks don't really understand or have awareness of, tax dollars that hunters all put in that goes right back into conservation through Pitman Robertson. I think some hunters don't even realize that they have like a real soapbox to stand on and celebrate there. But I really think at the end of the day, I'm making a connection that really has someone understand like this is a great thing, is telling those stories. I figured out a lot of times when I get to DC, like, I work with a lot of people that work on the Hill, and they're coming from all corners of the planet, right? Or all corners of the country to work on Capitol Hill. Some people are just purely urban. Mm-hmm. Like they don't even have the knowledge or experience outside of going on a hike, maybe, in a state park kind of thing, of like what it means to actually become part of nature, part of that cycle. It's fundamentally changing, inspiring. And I think being able to just proudly say, hunting matters, and this is why, I think it changes the minds. It's not going to happen, with one tweet or one post on Instagram or TikTok, but it does happen in one-on-one conversations. Yeah. I'm proof positive of it. I live in a place that just folks don't do it as much. Yep. Again, I live in DC so you don't have to, but I have to live with the people I live with, right? And I have to explain what I do. Yeah. I love it. Exactly. I turn minds. And I'm not saying come out with me. Maybe it'll get to that. Maybe they'll take me out someday, right? I don't know. But all I want them to do is just understand it. And, when it does come to the vote, know that there's something at stake there. It's not a one-sided story. Yeah. Because we see it all the time. It's like, what's the number on it? 10% of the country loves hunting no matter what. 10% hates it no matter what. 80%, you give them the facts, they'll listen. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to say it's conservation is going to work every time, or I eat what I kill is going to work every time. Those are good things to talk about. But tell the story, right? Give that story. Yeah.
Yeah. I had my first kind of run in with that with somebody when we were for my bachelor party. When I went to Florida and we went and hunted.
Where'd you go?
We were a little north of Miami.
Cool.
So with Python Cowboy and all that guy.
Sweet.
So went tarpon fishing.
Awesome.
And then we went and hunted iguanas. So we were leaving on the airport, and me and my buddies were sitting there, and there was this family that was sitting across waiting on the plane as well. And I guess they could tell from our backpacks and stuff like that. They were asking, "Are y'all hunters?" And we said, "Yes, sir, we are." And they were said, "Well, what are y'all hunting in Florida?" And we go into, tell them about the iguanas and everything, and kind of how they're destroying some of the canals and things, and it's management. Yep. And they wound up being from upstate New York, and they're saying, well, we have a lot of bears up there, and we need more hunters for the bears.
Yeah.
Is how the
they figured that one out.
Yeah. So kind of that same thing. So they were like, well, if y'all ever look into it, y'all should come to New York and hunt up there. So, it's having those conversations.
Thanks for the invite.
Exactly. Yeah. And having those conversations and letting people know that not what they see in most movies portrayed of hunters, how they're always the bad guy. It's not that.
Yep.
We're people too, and we do this because we care about it. It's not because of some bloodlust or anything like that. It's just we enjoy being a part of nature and enjoy being giving back to it, and then obviously taking from it to for our families, for us to live and everything else. So it's been an honor to have you on the podcast and hear your side of things, and obviously spread the message of what SCI does and then what they're going to be doing in the future. So I'll be keeping up with it, and I'll keep spreading the message on the podcast and everything. So Ben, I appreciate you coming and sitting down with me, man. I've enjoyed
anytime. I guess we're going to be doing it more often now,
yes,
right?
We can.
Okay, I love it.
Anytime you come down to visit in Texas, we'll definitely give you my card. We'll go have dinner, do a podcast or anything like that.
If you hunt something, I don't know.
We can do that too, man. We can do that too. I have a lot of friends and stuff. I'm sure you've got contacts.
Look at me inviting myself. Yeah.
Exactly.
Sorry about that.
No, it'd be a great time to share hunting camp with you, man, and do a podcast and tell a story about that. So
awesome,
Ben. Thank you, and guys, thanks for listening to the podcast this week. I hope y'all learned a lot about the grand opening SCI. And if you can, maybe stop by, see the office, meet the people that are working here that are trying to keep hunting going for everybody. And obviously become members and give back the best way you can. If that's sharing something on Facebook or Instagram or showing up to an event or donating your time, that's the way that we're going to be able to fight back against the antis and the people that don't want us doing what we're doing. Well, guys, like I said, this episode's going to be a little different. We've been able to sit down with quite a few different people from SCI and then also from Texas Trophy Hunters with Christina. But now I want to talk to one of our good buddies, Ruben from Trinity Oaks, organizations that we've worked with before, that we believe in what their message is, and they also benefit from SCI. They've partnered on some events and different things that they work with. So Ruben, would you just introduce yourself and kind of talk about what you do for Trinity Oaks and then kind of Trinity Oaks message?
Yeah, well, my name is Ruben Roman. I'm the Assistant Executive Director at Trinity Oaks. I am in charge of our programs, and so that's the hands and feet, the projects that we do. We have a few different programs, but I want to talk about what SCI has done for us first before we get into that. SCI has been instrumental in allowing us to continue our message and with our mission, and that's to teach the next generation about conservation. It's been very cool to partner with not only SCI but SCI Foundation as well, because the whole reason we do what we're doing is because of wildlife.
Exactly.
And so it's been really cool. Got to see Laird and Sven and talk to some of the guys out there today, and it's really exciting to see the steps that they're making forward to continue to protect conservation. Over at Trinity Oaks Outdoors, what we do is we focus on just bringing people outside. So we serve a few different communities. We serve children, at-risk youth, inner-city youth, people that wouldn't have the opportunity to hunt otherwise, or just go on a fishing trip, things like that. We also serve veterans and their families. Whether it's a veteran who was overseas or just only deployed here in the States, everything in between, we do that. And we also like to serve, they're called dream trips, and it's actually for children that are battling terminal illness. I personally myself have guided a lot of those trips, and it's something that is very near and dear to my heart. We believe that working together, we can make a difference in a lot of people's lives, and seeing Trinity Oaks be able to do that in my life has been really cool. I actually started as a participant with Trinity Oaks. When I was 15 years old, I went on a hunt. I was not a hunting person at all. I played sports like basketball and soccer, and that was the gist of it. But when I moved to Texas in 2010, I actually got connected in 2011 with Trinity Oaks. After that, I was hooked. Yeah. I was excited to be outside and just wanted to learn more about nature and the animals, and why does a whitetail shed his antlers every year? Why does an axis scream the way that it does? Yeah. There's so many things that you get to learn and just experience when you're outside. And Trinity Oaks has been able to teach me a lot about myself with that time that I've gotten to spend outside. Once I turned 18, I became a guide, and so now I've kind of stuck around with it. They haven't been able to get rid of me yet. Yeah. I'm really looking forward to our growth, and I think that with SCI here in town, it's going to allow us to do a lot of really cool things. really excited about all the opportunities that we have coming up with that.
Yeah, because when we first met, that's you were guiding out at Thumbtack, and I mean, if you haven't checked out our videos on YouTube with those, I mean, we've got some pretty cool videos and footage and stuff from hunting out there. And like you said, we had the opportunity to be out there on one of the veteran hunts, or
Bucks for the Brave.
Yeah, Bucks for the Brave, and just it's being at that place really solidified like hunting is a lot more than hunting for me. Like being around those people that we were there, the environment, the camaraderie that we all had, and it was a great time. And I can definitely say that Thumbtack and Trinity Oaks has really changed stuff, even like for me, in the way that we do things about spreading our message and having, like you said, using the platform that we have. So I'm glad I got to have you on the podcast, and then we'll have talk about this and talk about Trinity Oaks and pass on that message and get the information out there, because it's more than just people being in the industry that can make a difference. So being able to get the message out there, Trinity Oaks, and different people can see it and see what y'all are all about. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, every time I see you and Megan, it just brings a light to my face. You guys have done such an amazing job of capturing what it is that we're doing.
Yeah.
It's very special to have people like that who share that same compassion and passion for this mission that we have. We're very fortunate to be able to serve a lot of different communities, and we can't do it without support from other people, support from large organizations and individuals as well. If anyone wants to know anything about Trinity Oaks, they just got to go to trinityoaks.org. Everything we do is absolutely free. So whether it's a kids hunt, whether it's a veterans hunt, it's a fishing trip, everything is free to the participants, because we don't want there to be any hindrance or anything keeping someone from being able
going
to
out
do
there
that.
and doing it.
And so it's really important to do, and I'm glad that we have people like you in the industry highlighting that process. So,
well, I appreciate
much,
that, man. It's a lot of fun to do, and like you said, you get to meet cool people and have some pretty amazing experiences. So, guys, definitely go check out Trinity Oaks. Follow them on Instagram. They have a Facebook page, all that kind of stuff. They have chapters out in West Texas as well.
Yes, sir.
So they're well represented, and then we'll definitely be sharing their stuff on our pages as well to get that message out there. So, Ruben, I appreciate you sitting me down for a little bit, and
Absolutely.
we'll get back to the party and celebrating SCI.
Yeah, I'm gonna go eat some barbecue.
Heck yeah, man. Sounds good. Well, guys, right now I am sitting with Chris Comer he's the Director of Conservation for the SCI Foundation. So there's two arms. SCI is the advocacy group, and then obviously the foundation, which is the fundraising side, and then also the conservation side. So I wanted to kind of get his viewpoint of SCI and kind of the move and what they plan, the foundation side for the move, and what they kind of plan on doing, and kind of talk about maybe some of the projects that they're working on. So, Chris, thank you for sitting down with me today and giving me a little bit of your time, and kind of breaking up the festivities and everything. But kind of give us a little intro, a little bit about yourself, and then of course a little bit about what you do for the foundation.
Sure. Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Thanks for coming out. It's a big event here. We're happy to have folks here. It's very exciting that we're opening up the office here in San Antonio. Certainly a great place for us to be. Lots of good wildlife here in Texas, and it's of course a very hunting friendly state, which we really like. So as we talked a minute ago, I started my wildlife management career here in Texas. I was a professor at Stephen F. Austin State University in Nacogdoches, so I've got a long history here in Texas. Love it here. But 5 or 6 years ago, started with the Safari Club International Foundation. It's really an organization I didn't know much about until I started, to be honest. I heard of SCI, I knew what they were about, but SCI does sort of the advocacy and first for hunter side. And one of the things, as you know, that hunters are really passionate about and really care about is conserving wildlife. Mm-hmm. The original sort of conservationists were hunters, right? And so as part of that, SCI established the SCI Foundation 20 years ago to implement that part of their mission. So we do conservation, we do education, outdoor education, do some humanitarian services with veterans and other things like that. And they took that side of sort of their mission and said, hey, we want to have a foundation to do that. So the foundation is a 501c3, so we can take donations to do that work. And so our focus really is doing science-based research and management projects for a lot of different species. As you know, SCI is worldwide. Mm-hmm. So we do stuff in North America. We're active in Africa. We've done projects in Asia and other places. around the world. It's been really exciting for me. We do a lot of really interesting projects, and I won't go into all of them. One of the ones that I'm heavily involved with right now are actually doing research with African leopards in Botswana, which I've been heavily involved with that. We're working with the Kleberg Institute down in Kingsville.
Okay,
I'm sure you're familiar with them. To do this, it's a nationwide leopard survey in Botswana. So we're putting remote cameras out and getting pictures of leopards, and you can identify individuals, and based on that, you can estimate the density, right? So you can get a density number. And then they use that to conserve their leopard population long term.
Yeah.
And maybe you don't even think of leopards as a hunted species, but in fact, it's quite a very popular hunted species there.
Yeah.
And so our concern is we want to make sure that hunting's sustainable and they can keep doing it without hurting that population. So that's exactly what we're about. And that's the kind of work that we do. We're actually we're trying to develop some projects here in Texas. We've been working with the institute down there to develop some projects here. That'd be really exciting.
Yeah.
We're involved with some grizzly bear research in the Yukon in Canada. It's another cool place I get to go to some of these cool places.
Yeah.
It's really exciting. We have a good time.
That's cool. So it's y'all get to work with different species and obviously, like you said, different projects in different areas. It's basically, how do y'all receive these projects? I guess, is it something internally that y'all kind of vet and see these different needs, or do y'all have people that maybe like say, hey, check this out, this might be worth your time?
It's actually some of both, but yeah, what we're trying to do is identify gaps in information or gaps in management, right? So for example, in Wyoming, Montana, that region, as you know, there's a growing grizzly bear population. Kind of a conservation success story where we brought the grizzly bear back. But as they expand and they become, they spread into areas where they maybe haven't been for a long time, they start to get in trouble, right?
Yeah.
They get into people, they maybe kill a cow, or ranchers that get upset and people get upset, and there's been some human interactions which aren't so great, right?
Yeah.
So we saw a need there. So we've become active doing conflict mitigation. So we have these events where we give out bear spray to outdoors people, hunters and anglers primarily. So they have bear spray. They encounter a bear in the backcountry. Give them some training. We've got I can show you some videos. We have those things called a robo bear. So it's like it's a bear like statue on a remote control cart.
Yep.
And you run it at somebody, and so you have them with the bear spray. And then the thing runs at them. They have to turn around and get that bear spray out and spray it.
And use it. Yeah.
And the idea is that's really hard
when
there's a bear coming at you, right? So you give them a little training. But stuff like that where we see, hey, there's a need there. We can step in. We have a lot of really dedicated donors that care about what we do. And we take their hunter resources, right? These all come from hunters and SCI members, and we put it towards these projects rather than need. In the case of the leopards, they have a good population of leopards there, but they didn't have good data about their exact numbers.
Yeah.
So we can step in. They don't have a ton of resources, obviously. We can step in and provide them data that they can use then to plan their harvest. And if there's not enough animals to harvest, they'll know that too, and all that kind of stuff. So exactly, trying to fill needs where they're out there.
that is real important because as hunters we like to, or we pride ourselves on using sound research and sound statistics on the things that we do. So having that arm of SCI and the foundation and everything to be able to deploy to those areas where we see a spot where we're missing this information. We need this information, good or bad, whatever it is. We just just need the information, so then we can make the decisions going forward with the things. Because it's real hard to make decisions on things when you're not educated on what's exactly going on the ground.
You want to make informed decisions about these things.
Exactly. Especially for like you said, internationally for those countries, because they're at less of an advantage to get that information than especially a lot of
they have a lot of extra money, right,
to give out for those things and have the time and resources to do it. So that's real cool. And I know you mentioned that y'all are working on some projects, obviously here in Texas. And then, can you speak on any of that, or what's in the book?
This one's kind of in development. One, as you probably know, there's a big there's been some stuff in the news about mountain lions here in Texas, and one of the issues that came up is would like to have better information about cougars here in Texas. That it's an iconic species here and elsewhere. One that I think there's a healthy population in most places, but again, we don't have great data. So we're working with the Kleberg Institute and with Texas Parks and Wildlife. Hey, can we develop something to get better information about cougars? Which is exciting. I mean, that's right here in our backyard, and it's not in place yet, but we've been working on that, see if we can get a project.
Yeah, that's good to hear, because I've talked about what's been kind of transpired the last couple months, and really the last about 18 months of things and information going around here in Texas about mountain lions. And I mean, most of our listeners know I grew up in South Texas.
Oh, you're a South Texas guy.
So I know that there's a lot of mountain lions, and I've had buddies that run cat dogs. I know guys that hunt for mountain lions and trap as well. And there's populations in specific areas of Texas that are abundant. And then you can go to a different area of Texas and you might not see mountain lions. Like that's kind of on the range for most Western states where they have mountain lions. I'm sure you can go to parts of Wyoming and Colorado where there might not be mountain lions in that specific area, but you go just over the mountain and there's a healthy population of them. Yeah. So knowing that was kind of one of the things when this first kind of started getting passed around was, what is the actual information? What are the numbers of mountain lions? And not just say West Texas. We need to know what's going on in West Texas. We need to know what's going on in South Texas. And you can't really manage both of those places the same way.
It's like a repeat of the conversation we had just the other day.
Yeah, because like I said, I love Texas, so I pay attention to everything. Mm-hmm. And we're different than a lot of other states. Than that, one, for the size. And then two, for the different environments that we have within our state, because a lot of states, they have the same kind of environment, same, megafauna and fauna and different plants and animals. But you can go from one end of Texas over
Piney Woods, right? As we know,
right? Piney Woods, and then go to West Texas, and it's completely different. Yeah. So it's real exciting to hear that's going to be coming here in the near future, or hopefully coming in the near future to kind of see.
Yeah, I hope we can get that together. It'd be an exciting project, one where I think we can really help, right?
Yeah,
give better information.
Yeah, and I mean it's a lot of. I come to kind of see it's a lot more predators that we really don't know the numbers of. Just like in recently, if you've been paying attention, there's a lot more black bears popping up in Texas.
Well,
that people have been seeing.
You're going back into my past. So when I was at Stephen F., I did a couple bear projects there. We did surveys for black bears across East Texas back then, and did some like habitat modeling and stuff like that. Yeah, but I still kind of pay attention, right? Even though I'm not based there anymore. Yeah, I've noticed there've been more sightings that come up there on like Facebook and stuff.
Yep, exactly. In West Texas, and I don't think. I mean, there's a huge veil in East Texas with all the trees, so it's a lot harder to see them over there. But as we see in Louisiana, they just started their season and saw that they have a population that's abundant enough to have a season. And I'm pretty sure that those bears really don't know that there's a state line between Texas and Louisiana.
They don't recognize the Sabine River.
Exactly. They just kind of, this is wet and then this is dry. So I'm sure that they'll have some spread from that area over into Texas as well.
We've been involved with that situation in Louisiana for a long time, SCI and SCIF for quite some time with the delisting, and it's a great conservation success story there too, with the restoration of Louisiana black bears and the delisting. And now they're gonna have a hunt. It's really exciting. Yeah, it's really exciting.
And I mean, and like you said, it's seeing the numbers and getting the information and then making the decision on that. Because I'm sure if they'd have took the information in Louisiana and said, hey, this is our population, it's not sustainable to have a hunting season, well, then they probably wouldn't make that decision to have one. So
no, they were painstaking in the data collection for years and years to document not only population, but that the population were connected, so animals are moving around, and so that one of the folks who works in our conservation department is a Louisiana black bear expert. Yeah, she's heavily involved with that all throughout when they were going through the delisting, and now she's come to work for the foundation. So a true expert on black bears.
Awesome.
Which is exciting for us.
Yes, that is very exciting to have that kind of experience and that kind of knowledge coming over to help with other projects and as well. So that's really cool. So I hope the listeners kind of get an idea of what the foundation does. And then on the conservation side, what's something that's besides like the projects here in Texas, maybe like out west or something, what's another project that you're really excited
I mentioned the grizzly bear stuff. Right now we're developing a project in British Columbia with grizzly bears. Again, they've got a lot of bears there. They don't hunt them now. So they it was 2017 or something, I think, when they stopped hunting bears there, which I don't know if they're going to ever restore hunting there, but they do have a lot of them. And we're working with First Nations there, which is pretty exciting. First Nations have sort of unique perspective on this whole thing. They're, bears are very important to them
Yes.
for a variety of reasons. And so we're working closely with them to try to develop a project to help define what their bear population looks like, how many bears are there, and even like their feeding habits and all kinds of stuff like that. So,
just gathering all the information to present it, so it's available for the people that need to see it.
That's exactly
And
it.
it's when these politicians or people that are making these decisions, they really have to lean on organizations like yourself and people like yourself and people that are knowledgeable. I mean, they are not at the privileged to be able to have all that information in their own head. Right. So hopefully when it's presented to them, they're able to look at it objectively and see what needs to be done and to make those decisions.
And we view that as a partnership we have to be successful in any of these projects, whatever the management agency is in that area. So here it'd be Texas Parks and Wildlife. In Botswana, it's the Department of Wildlife and National Parks there. We work closely with them, and we consider it, if we don't have a partnership with them, then we're not going to be successful. We want to give them the information that they need. And that's been a really good guiding principle for us. Make sure, in fact, on our work in Botswana, we have two gentlemen from the department that come with us on every one of our sampling things. They're out with us every day. We're talking about what's going on, so they know how the process works, what the research is doing, all that kind of stuff. So,
that's awesome. So one last thing I wanted to ask, before we get back to the festivities and everything, but how does the foundation, or what is the foundation's take on getting conservation at a younger age and teaching people about that? Are there any programs that y'all run through schools or anything like that? Maybe
Thank you.
If we have people that are able to get that information out, that'd be great.
Yeah. So the other part of what I do, I've got the conservation side, which is kind of my background, but the other side is education. So we long time had this education programs. There's a variety of them out there. We're involved with the Outdoor Tomorrow Foundation, which is based here, not here in San Antonio, it's in Dallas, that goes into high schools and middle schools to educate kids about hunting and conservation. For a long time, we ran a school in Wyoming called the American Wilderness Leadership School, where we would get teachers and we teach them about sort of our, the North American model of conservation. All that. So then they could take it back to their students. We've got a program now we're partnering with Delta Waterfowl to do their university hunting programs. We support that. So yes, we're heavily involved. As you know very well, getting that word out about the bigger picture about hunting, right, and all the good things. I think as I'm sure we agree, there's conservation. You've got sort of the traditions that go along with hunting. You've got the food that comes from it. I mean, there's so many things, and it's such a powerful message. We just need to get it to people, and I think they'll see it. Right?
Yeah.
Of course, Texas is a great place to do that.
Yeah, exactly, exactly.
It goes over pretty well here in Texas. We try to take that to other states and maybe a little more challenging.
Yeah. It's kind of a bit, and I kind of talked about a little bit or touched on, is using Texas as a model and as a place to kind of test things, and then obviously spread those messages to other states. Because like I said, I'm a proud Texan, so I'm glad to see that we're taking steps forward and trying to be leaders in the fact of conservation, wildlife, and everything else. And
even private lands is such a big deal here. Getting private landowners and people involved in conservation, it's a great model for that here.
Because other states with public land and everything, it's a little bit different. It's handled different ways. But even there's a lot of private land out west also. When it can be managed well, they're putting in programs here in Texas to give access to more private lands that are held so people can go and hunt on them. So it's using Texas to build and spread the message throughout the rest of the country. So I'm really proud that it's here.
Yeah, you should
SCI
be.
And everything else.
And we're glad to be here. Like I said, San Antonio is a great place, and I think Texas is the right home for SCI.
Yeah,
I think.
I believe so too. Well, Chris, thanks for giving me
it's my
minutes
pleasure.
of your time.
Thanks for coming out.
Yeah,
and for letting me sit in the air conditioning. Yeah,
exactly. A lot of people who are coming on the podcast like, it's a lot cooler out here in here than it is outside. So it's awesome. I'm glad I had you on. And then, if people want more information about maybe some of the projects or follow along or about the foundation, where can they search for that?
So we have a Facebook account that has the website is safariclubfoundation.org. That'll keep you up to date. that's probably the best two places to get information.
So I'll definitely link that in the show description, and then have it like pop up
on Instagram and YouTube.
Yeah,
that's all over the
YouTube.
place. Like,
so
I'm not the
all
biggest
over the
social
place.
media expert, but I know that we have that.
No problem at all. Yeah. So we'll definitely share that out, and definitely go give SCI a follow and the foundation as well. So you can get all the information on what they're doing and know where your membership is going and what it's providing for other people, and then also for us here at home as well.
Great.
So Chris, thanks for coming on the podcast.
Man, my pleasure. Good talking with you.
Yeah. And all right, guys. So now I am sitting down with Maria Davidson of the SCI Foundation. We just spoke to Chris about some of the things that y'all are doing, and he mentioned you in speaking. So we wanted to get your kind of side of the story, and then just a little bit of history about yourself and what you look forward to in moving and being at the foundation and the projects y'all are working on.
Sure, you bet. It's really good to be here. So I had a long career with the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries as their large carnivore program manager. And towards the end of my career, when we delisted the Louisiana black bear, which actually ranges all the way into East Texas, the Safari Club International intervened in the subsequent lawsuit when that delisting occurred. So at the very end of my career, I worked for a couple of years with the advocacy team with SCI, and was so impressed with their work and what they do and what they stand for that when I retired, I went back to work because I have a son in college and he likes to eat and get his tuition paid and things like that. So I went immediately back to work for Safari Club International Foundation and actually kept my same job title. So I'm their large carnivore program manager. I could have just scratched out one name and added another. So that was pretty cool. And went to work with Dr. Chris Comer, which is kind of an old friend that actually used to be here in Texas as well.
Yep.
So we've got some really exciting projects. We've got this mountain lion project we're putting together for Texas Parks and Wildlife to have additional data as they move forward into other management plans, possibly for the Texas cougar.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're going to start in South Texas. We're going to look at getting density and abundance, some reproduction and survival, things like that. So we'll be making sure we can determine how many cougars are actually living in Texas. We're going to look at their reproduction. We're going to look at their survival. We're going to look at their genetic diversity, so that when Texas Parks and Wildlife needs to move forward with new management decisions, they're really going to be using the best available science possible, which of course hunters are all behind. And they prove it time and again by supporting projects just like this. Nothing's cheap these days.
Nope.
A trip to the grocery store is not cheap.
No.
So you can imagine what it costs to put collars out on a bunch of mountain lions in Texas. So, this can be a pretty spendy project, and our conservation hunters are supporting it 100%. So we're pretty excited about that.
Yeah. And I'll say just, with everything that's going on with mountain lions in Texas and kind of stay ahead of, on top of it and get the new information. It's, the thing that I kept running into when this was going on was the fact that we didn't have numbers. We didn't have solid data on populations from West Texas to East Texas to South Texas. Like I was talking to Chris, Texas is a very large state.
Correct.
It's a lot of different environments, a lot of different things that can attribute to population being less or more in one area versus another.
100%.
So it's awesome to hear that the foundation for one is behind this in Texas Parks and Wildlife, and actually figuring out the data to then make decisions about managing wildlife, because we're all for that. If you were to sit here and tell me that mountain lions, the numbers just aren't there, well, then we need to put things in place so that they are. And if you tell me that, hey, we have an overabundance of mountain lions and we need more people hunting and more people trapping to manage them, well, then we can take those steps to do that as well.
Right. The best management decisions are always informed by the best available science. And if that is lacking, then you can possibly make some decisions that don't go your way, right? So that's what we're doing with Texas Parks and Wildlife. We're partnering with them and making sure that we're answering their questions. And, it's not going to happen overnight. This is likely going to be somewhere a 2 to 4 year project.
Yeah.
It takes a little while. If you're looking at survival, reproduction, obviously you got to let some time go by to see what survival is for mountain lions in Texas, see what the reproduction is, and then just provide baseline numbers. Because it's going to be different in South Texas than it is in West Texas. And we know that, so you can manage different areas of the state differently if it's necessary. maybe it's not necessary to change anything,
Yep.
in Texas, but you won't know until you look.
Exactly.
Right.
And I think it's like with this project being starting here, and I'm sure there's other projects for mountain lions and for carnivores. And I was, like I said, once again telling Chris and Ben as well. It seems that we've spent a lot of time, which granted that on deer and elk and birds and everything else we hunt, but carnivores seems to really be lacking in data or even people's knowledge of why we hunt carnivores and predators and stuff. And it seems like now there's been like a kind of a resurgence and more people are getting into it.
Right. It's really interesting to me that we are faced with a situation where animal rights groups and anti-hunting groups have a different opinion about managing carnivores than they do other wildlife. Some of them are perfectly okay with hunting as long as you're not hunting large carnivores, but they're no different than deer or elk or anything else. Populations must be managed. I hear oftentimes we'll just leave it, let Mother Nature take its course. Well, we're already in a human-dominated landscape. That's not going to change. We're not going to suddenly go back 25 years, 50 years to, how it was back then. So you have to manage populations to keep their numbers in check, and appropriate numbers to keep their populations healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And of course you won't know that without data-driven research.
Yeah.
So that's where we're going with this. And I'm pretty excited about it. I think it's going to provide a lot of substantive information that we need right now.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Because we obviously we want these animals on the landscape.
Absolutely.
At 100%. But I also don't, well, even for here in San Antonio, people also don't want to worry about their pets outside because there's mountain lions or any other large carnivore that's coming into town. Like you said, humans are on the landscape and we have to manage the animals best to serve obviously the animals and also the people that are living around those animals as well.
You're right. And my hats are off to all of the wildlife managers, state agencies, because that's a really delicate balance. That can be extremely difficult to do. You're right in the middle trying to determine, exactly how many they need, what they want those populations to look like. When you're talking about large carnivores, the public really generally knows what a carrying capacity is. That's how many animals the habitat can sustain. But with large carnivores, there's a social carrying capacity, meaning, how many mountain lions does the population in Texas want out there? What will they put up with? And it's the same with bears, maybe even worse for bears. So, you really have to walk a fine line between too many, not enough, how many are tolerated, how many are not tolerated. So that can be a really difficult decision to do. So therefore, best science is certainly appropriate.
Yeah, exactly. And then also getting that information on best practices for people to on their interactions with those animals. Because, we all see the videos from Yellowstone and the national parks of people trying to pet bison and elk and different animals and stuff. And, if we have those large carnivores on the landscape, we definitely need to make sure that people understand that this is not a teddy bear.
Nope.
This is not the character that you see on TV. This is a beautiful animal, but it has the ability to take your life if it feels threatened. And it's not, you can't really tell, but best practices is viewed from afar.
That's correct. We engage in a lot of human wildlife conflict education, specifically with bears. I have an agreement with Montana, Idaho, and Wyoming where we contribute to their human bear conflict education programs. We have a charging bear simulator where we go through and train people how to use bear spray. All important components to recreate safely, especially in grizzly bear country, which is a totally different animal than a black bear.
Yeah.
But some of the same rules still apply. And, I find it interesting that the public as a whole has become so removed and so distant to nature and wildlife.
Mm-hmm.
And you're having to make sure people understand how to stay safe when they recreate in outdoor areas. And you've seen all those Facebook pages of whatever they call it, the Turons of Yellowstone and all that. It's amazing to me how the public can and will behave around wildlife, and they get themselves hurt. So, we do our best to educate and make sure that people get out there, they enjoy wildlife, they get to view wildlife, but they do so safely.
Yes, exactly. I mean, I think some people are taking their things that they're learning from not reputable sources and more entertainment sources rather than people or shows that are actually giving you factual information. I mean, everybody loves watching Disney Channel and all the different movies that they have and everything, but it's not real.
Well, exactly. And, after watching some of the things that you see on social media, I can only assume that those people just don't know any better.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know how fast a bison will run. They are unaware that eventually that black bear is not going to tolerate that kind of silly behavior anymore. They just don't know any better. So, so many of our programs just help teach that to keep people safe.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's great. What else can people do, or members of SCI or potential members of SCI or the foundation? What do you see as regular people, I guess you'd say, not involved in the industry or biologists or anything? What can they do to, I guess, spread the message on large or learn more information about large carnivores?
Well, depending upon what state you are, they may or may have the presence of mountain lions. They may or may not have bears, but their best source of information is almost always their state agency. It's easy to Google anything, right? I mean, and you never know what you're going to get when you do that. But if you're looking for specific information about wildlife in your state, whatever your state agency is going to have the best information out there. And support those reputable organizations that produce projects and programs that support wildlife in your state. If you are passionate about turkeys, there are organizations that do that. If you are passionate about cougars in Texas, there are organizations that do that. We would love for you to support us, to support our projects that are going to help manage those populations into the future.
That's awesome. And like you said, just like she said, reach out to those reputable sources. Make sure that your information that you're getting is vetted. It's coming from studies and research that's been done, and then also keep up with that research as it's evolving, because we all know that a study can be done, but a lot of factors can change to manipulate that, and then we have to be able to stay informed on those different changes.
Right, exactly. And in fact, social media isn't necessarily your best source of information when you're looking at how do I behave. For instance, if anything involves a selfie with wildlife, chances are not a good plan.
Not a good plan.
Not a good plan. Might need to rethink that.
Yeah, exactly. Turning your back to an animal is probably not the smartest thing. And of course, if you've ever taken a selfie, you're looking at the camera, but you're thinking right, but you need to be going left. It could end up in a bad situation very fast.
Items in the mirror may be closer than they appear.
Exactly. Yes, ma'am. Well, I want to thank you for coming on the podcast and giving us a little snippet. Like I said, for everyone that's been on the podcast today, taking a little time. Of course, getting out of the heat and coming inside's been a break for everyone. But just sitting down to spend time to come on the podcast and give a little bit of information. Like I said, I'm going to share all the information for the foundation, and hopefully I will keep up with the project.
Oh, 100%. And I'll be down here a lot.
That'll be great, and I'd definitely be open to, if it's possible, because I know some projects want to keep the information all together, but we kind of get maybe some updates or be able to follow along and tell different people what's going on with the project and everything. So I'm sure there's some landowners in South Texas and West Texas that would probably, because like you said, we run into a big issue in Texas with private land versus public, versus where you can do some of those studies probably a little bit more easier, or maybe even be harder out in the western states with the government managing those properties and stuff. But like I said, it takes a lot of people, and hopefully we'll have some landowners that are going to be able to allow them to do these studies to get the information we need.
I'm confident we will. In my career in Louisiana is just like Texas. We're over 90% privately owned, and private landowner rights is at the top of my list in terms of priorities. And they are also the number one user of the wildlife. They are the number one protector of the wildlife. I mean, wildlife lives on their properties. We only have it because they are allowing it on their properties. You know, they are encouraging it with whatever their practices are on their properties. So their rights are very important to me. I had great relationships in Louisiana. I don't expect it to be any different than Texas.
Yeah. Well,
It's going to be great.
Yeah, we're excited to get that information out, and thanks again for coming on the podcast.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
No problem at all.